Hi, good evening, everyone. Today, we will go ahead and take some questions based on the growth models. Mostly, this is solo model only, but let's see, you know, which model is exactly solo and which is not following the properties of solo model. Okay, let's look into the first question. Try to do this question yourself first. Give it a try. The next five questions are based on the following information. Consider an economy where aggregate output is produced using capital and labor. Aggregate production technique is given to you. At every point of time, both factors are fully employed. Each worker is paid a proportion beta, wage rate beta, and each unit of capital is paid a rental alpha. Wage rate beta, rental alpha. A constant proportion S of the output is saved. Savings rate, small s. And invested in the next period, which augments the capital stock in the next period. Depreciation 0. Labor force is growing at the rate n. Growth rate of labor n. This production function violates which of the following? Give it a try. Okay. How about others? Good. So all of you are correct that there is no diminishing returns, right? There is no diminishing returns to capital or labor. So that is the correct answer. Absolutely. Answer will be B. Why? Because if I go ahead and if I look at the production function, my production function is Y is equal to alpha L, alpha K plus beta L. So if I go ahead and if I differentiate this production function with respect to labor, which gives me marginal product of labor, it is coming out to be beta, right? So the marginal product of labor is coming out to be constant, है ना? Constant है, diminishing नहीं है. कैसे? क्योंकि if we differentiate marginal product of labor with respect to L, it gives us 0, right? And when this is 0, it means that you have constant marginal product of labor. So if when you differentiate marginal product of labor with respect to L and it comes out to be negative, only then it will be diminishing marginal product of labor. Only then it will be diminishing. But here it is not coming out to be negative, right? It is coming out to be 0. So it is equal to constant returns to, constant returns to labor, right? Same is the case with capital also. You can give it a try with capital also. So when you will differentiate this with respect to K, you will get alpha, and this will be called as marginal product of capital. And how marginal product of capital changes? As capital changes is 0. So constant. So correct. Answer will be B. Okay, try this one. Try this part. Let small kt be capital KT by LT. Corresponding per capita output is given by which of the following equations? Good. Good. Yes, that is the correct answer. Very good. So your production function is given to you as alpha k plus beta L. So we now need to find out small k. So we are dividing both side by L, right? So if I divide both side by L, I am going to go ahead and get small y is equal to alpha small k plus beta. Alpha small k plus beta. Remember, here the Subscripts are very important. So if it is T na, you need to make sure that you write T everywhere. It is very important to write T, right? So yes, everyone is correct. Here also T is important. The correct answer to this question will be C, that YT is equal to alpha KT plus beta. That is the correct answer. Okay, come to the next part. Try to do this one now. Dynamic equation for capital accumulation per worker is. Give this one a try. Find out the dynamic equation. Okay, good. How about others? At least give some try. What is dynamic equation? Change in capital. है ना? So we know that whenever we need to write the capital, देखो ध्यान से समझना हाँ, capital at the period T+1 will be last year's capital minus depreciation of capital plus जो saving है वही investment बनेगा. So investment is nothing but equal to savings, and it is given that saving is some proportion of income. So you will get KT plus 1 equal to KT minus delta KT plus SYT. First of all, you have to understand this part. That what is this year's capital and last year capital ka relationship, right? So the relationship is that KT plus 1 is KT minus delta KT plus SYT. Now, what is given to us, beta? It is given to us. It is given that the depreciation rate is 0. So I will just plug 0. So I will get KT plus 1 is equal to KT plus SYT. Okay. Another thing which is important and given to us, that labor is growing at the rate n. Labor is growing at the rate n. So it means that LT plus 1, this T plus 1 labor will be last year's labor plus n times last year labor. So it will be 1 plus n times LT. This will be LT plus 1. This will be LT plus 1. बस अब तो simple है. If I divide throughout by LT, if I divide this equation throughout by LT, so I will get KT plus 1 upon LT plus 1 is equal to, this will become small kt. This is a standard process you have to follow, and plus s small yt. Plus s small yt. This is what is going to happen, right? Now, what is the next thing that I have to do? यहाँ पर मेरे पास, this is sorry LT, हाँ, यहाँ पे I have LT in the denominator. So I need to convert this LT in LT plus 1 so that I can write it in small numbers. तो LT और LT plus 1 का क्या relationship है? ये relationship है. And it is given to me here that from here I know that LT will be LT plus 1 upon 1 plus n. So I will just replace this here. So what will I get? KT plus 1 upon LT plus 1 upon 1 plus n is equal to KT plus S delta T. KT plus S delta T. So this will go ahead and this will give me 1 plus n. This can go in the numerator. ये वाला part बन जाएगा small kt plus 1 is equal to KT plus S YT. This is your equation. First of all, you need to understand this equation. To get this equation, you have a standard way. आपको इस equation में कुछ भी अलग नहीं करना है. This is a standard equation that you have to follow. There is nothing different in this equation. right? So please remember, how do we get this equation? The way to get the equation is a standard way. Okay. Why I have to follow this method? Because especially in this case, I was not given that this is a solo model. Had it been given, जैसे यहाँ तो कहीं mention नहीं है that it's a solo model, so I am following this entire process. If it would have been given that this is a solo model, then in that case, you remember, you can directly also write that equation. So the equation is that change in capital is Sy minus delta plus Nk. You don't have to do these steps. You can directly write this equation also. अभी भी यहां से यही इक्वेशन आएगा. You will get this equation only, the same equation. But what I imply is that if it does not mention, यहाँ पे कहीं पे भी mention नहीं है that it's a solo model. So therefore, just take a moment to derive this equation also. Just take 1 minute to derive this equation. Right? That's the only thing that you have to do. Otherwise, if you directly use this solo model equation, जो हमने पढ़ी हुई है, then also it is fine. This is the dynamic solo model equation. This equation, you have to at all times remember this. This is very, very important from exam point of view. बहुत important है. अब जब भी हम ये इक्वेशन पे आते हैं, we always replace this y with the value that we had found out. और हमने small y का क्या value निकाला था? We had already found out that small y is alpha k plus beta. So we can go ahead and we can plug that here. So I will get k dot is equal to s alpha k plus beta minus n plus delta k. Minus n plus delta k, and just open this up. So what will you get? S alpha k plus S beta minus nk minus delta k. Minus nk minus delta k. Delta is given to you as 0. So it will be S alpha k plus S beta minus nk. This is your answer. So if I already assume this equation, solo model ka, I have done it in 2 steps. Just that, this much. But because solo model was not given to me, if I want, I can also go and derive from here to here. I can go till this equation, right? Otherwise, directly using this equation, just put the value of y in this dynamic equation and you will get the answer. That's it. So change in k with respect to time is this S alpha k plus S beta minus nk. So it is going to be B. If there is any doubt, I can clear. This is important. These kind of questions will come in exam. Okay, please explain LD thing. So see here. See, the question is saying that labor is growing at a constant rate of n. माने इसका क्या मतलब है? That labor at the period t plus 1 will be last year's labor plus there is growth rate at the rate n. So labor at period t plus 1 will be 1 plus nlt. That is why I have written it like this. In some questions वो क्या करेंगे ना, they will say that the labor growth rate is 0. तो अगर labor growth rate 0 होता है, that means n is 0. So you will get last year's labor exactly equal to this year's labor. This is also possible. But in this case, we have to use this equation. We have to go ahead and use this equation. How to derive further with capital accumulation equation. Okay. So you have got till this level now. So what you can do is, so you will get kt plus 1 plus n kt plus 1 equal to kt plus syt. You can take this here. So kt plus 1 minus kt will be n kt plus 1 plus SYT. Right? So if you now look here, what has happened is that this is your change in capital. This is your change in capital, right? Now we want to understand how this capital is changing with respect to time, with respect to t, right? So what you can go ahead and do is that if I assume that capital changes are kt plus 1 minus kt, you can just put this part as your change in capital is equal to nkt plus 1 plus syt. nkt plus 1 plus syt, and then you can just replace this kt plus 1 from this equation that we had written, this equation. That's it. You can just put it back. जो भी हमने यहाँ equation लिखा था ना, that kt plus 1 is this, whatever equation we had written. Instead of that, you can just plug that here. So you will get the entire equation in terms of kt. Right? That's the longer method that you can use. But you can go ahead and also directly use this dynamic equation. That is also correct. There is nothing wrong with it. Okay. Without solo, how will you solve it? Without writing the dynamic equation, how will we go ahead and how will we solve this? We cannot. You have to first write down the dynamic equation in terms of this model. You cannot differentiate and get the answer in this case. That will be absolutely incorrect because there is presence of kt plus 1 and kt both in the equation. So because both of them are present, you cannot go ahead and you cannot just differentiate it directly.